Imagine walking out of your Cambridge biology exam feeling, absolutely bulletproof about your answer on 6.1 messenger RNA structure. Then weeks later, you get your paper back and 0 marks. None. It happens all the time. You might know the biology perfectly, inside and out, but make one tiny, fatal error in how you structure your answer, and poof, the marks just vanish. We're going to expose exactly what that mistake is right now so you literally never make it.
So take a close look at this comparison here. On the left, we've got your standard generic mRNA answer. It defines what mRNA is, drops a mention of the bases, and, well, that's kind of it. It looks right, doesn't it? But it's bleeding crucial marks. Now shift over to the right side. This right here is a top band answer. Notice how it takes those exact same structural facts, but it directly applies them to the specific context given in the question, all while using precise terminology. The real difference between these two? It's not about how much biology you know, it's 100% exam technique.
And honestly, that brings us to the harsh reality of the Cambridge 9700 syllabus. The difference between a B and an A star in biology, it so often comes down to this exact distinction. You see, ordinary, repetitive revision completely fails here, because simply memorizing a textbook page about mRNA won't save you if you don't grasp what the examiners are actually hunting for. They aren't just testing your memory, right? They are testing your application.
Okay, let's dive into this. The core principles of 6.1 mRNA structure require way more than just superficial breadth. Cambridge demands a truly connected conceptual understanding. So what does that actually mean for you? Well, it means you've got to be able to take established mRNA principles and seamlessly transfer them to completely new, totally unfamiliar contexts, stuff you've literally never seen in class. You have to rely on systematic analysis and evidence-based reasoning, not just regurgitating facts.
To pull that off, we really need to understand the 3 distinct cognitive domains examiners use to assess you. They're testing your knowledge and understanding, sure, but also your ability in handling and evaluating information, and finally, your experimental skills. They are hunting for analytical depth. If your answer only hits that first bullet point, man, you are leaving 2/3 of the marks just sitting on the table.
So, this begs a pretty massive question. In just a second, I'm going to reveal the huge examiner clue hidden right there in the paper that changes your answer completely. It's the ultimate key to unlocking those higher order marks. But first, you need the underlying framework that actually makes that clue incredibly obvious to spot when you're under the pressure of the exam clock.
Section 1. The Method Mark Strategy. Secure process marks.
Let's move to and see how this builds, because this strategy is essentially the secret code to Cambridge's mark schemes. You are heavily rewarded for your systematic process. To secure every single process mark, you've got to follow these 5 steps systematically. Step 1, identify key elements from the stimulus materials. Step 2, apply the relevant MSKR principles. 3, execute your analysis with crystal clear working. 4, verify your results. And 5, present your final answer in the appropriate format using correct terminology. If you skip the working or mess up the formatting, you're just bleeding marks.
The top scoring candidates, they've internalized this standardized sequence into a super simple 3-part framework: deconstruct, solve, evaluate. It's like second nature. First, you deconstruct the question to pull out the exact data they gave you. Then, you break it down into logical steps and solve it systematically. And finally, you evaluate, checking if your answer actually makes sense and making justified recommendations based entirely on the evidence.
Section 2. Think like an examiner. Avoid costly mistakes.
To really master this strategy, we've got to actively evaluate information exactly the way a Cambridge examiner does. By digging into the principal examiner reports specifically for 6.1 messenger RNA structure, we found the top 3 most costly recurring mistakes that candidates just keep making, year after year.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is just how avoidable these errors actually are. Look at this list. Warning number 1. Students constantly forget to include units in mRNA calculations, instantly waving goodbye to easy marks. Warning 2, they forget to double-check their units in terminology before moving on. And warning 3, this is the fatal one, guys, providing generic answers that are not specific to the context given in the question. They basically just write out a textbook definition instead of actually answering the specific scenario sitting right in front of them. In fact, let's look at a direct quote from a principal examiner. The classic mistake is providing generic answers not specific to the question context. Always link every point to the given scenario. And boom, right there, we close the loop from earlier. That massive examiner clue I promised you, it is always, always hidden right within the specific scenario provided in the stimulus material. That unique context, it's literally your treasure map to the mark scheme.
Section 3, Statistical Analysis in mRNA Practical Work.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what we mean. When you're handed data from an mRNA practical investigation, selecting the perfect analytical framework isn't optional, it's non-negotiable. This matrix shows you exactly when to use each statistical test. If you're comparing the means of two sets of continuous data, you select the t-test. Dealing with categorical data, that's your chi-squared test. And if you're trying to find relationships between variables, you go with correlation tests. Picking the wrong test means your entire evaluation instantly fails the examiner's standard.
Section 4. Exam Challenge. Spot the error. All right, time to put you in the hot seat. I want you to pause this explainer, analyze this flawed calculation, and see if you can identify exactly which of those top 3 examiner warnings this candidate violated. Look really closely at the numbers and that final statement. What is blatantly missing here? Okay, let's look at the examiner style correction. Did you spot it? Hey, don't sweat it if you missed it the first time. Thousands of students do. The original completely lacked units and utterly failed to tie the number back to the specific mRNA scenario. But look at it now. By ensuring clear notation, adding the proper units, and verifying the result with a justified, evidence-based conclusion that actually links back to the context, this answer instantly transforms from a low-band attempt right into top-band material. That is the deconstruct, solve, evaluate method in action.
Section 5. The vital next step. Solidify your knowledge.
We've covered a tremendous amount of ground today, so let's lock this in. Here are your 3 key takeaways to basically encode into your brain. First, master that method mark sequence. Your process matters just as much as your final answer. Second, always check your units and terminology. And third, mentally link every single point you write directly back to the specific scenario provided in the question. Literally picture yourself drawing a physical line from your answer straight up to the stimulus text.
So, you might be sitting there thinking you're fully prepared now. But I've got to leave you with a bit of a warning. What if you do all of this perfectly? You include your units, you link it to the context, you use the right statistical test, and you still lose massive marks just because you completely misunderstood one single specific word in the question prompt. Yeah, an unresolved problem still remains if you don't fully understand the specific command words that dictate the Cambridge marks game.
Because knowing the biology just isn't enough if you answer an evaluate question like it's a describe question. Unlocking these command words is the absolute mandatory next step to secure your grade, which we cover in depth in our next explainer. Subscribe to our YouTube channel Ace the Exams at acexams_IGCSE to excel in your Cambridge examinations. But until then, I want you to ask yourself, are you actually answering the question Cambridge is asking, or just the one you kind of wish they asked?